if you've got health issues and you're trying something new like diet, supplementation, or any sort of modality or protocol to get over it, I don't think you can use symptoms as the best method to check if it's working or not, or to check if you're on the right path. Now, the end game for sure is symptoms. We want eventually to have less of the negative symptoms we've been getting originally by the end of, or by enough time through what we've implemented. I touched on this in my last video on how a gut protocol works when I talked about how people are oversensitive to how they reacted with one food at one time. And I kind of wanted to make another video to talk about it here and go into more examples of it and why it might not help you. So let's say you're going to take the approach that I've done and what I help people with, and that's the gut repair, gut protocol method. We can't react to symptoms all the time, and we can't use them as the main barometer of if what we're doing is working. And this is what I say to my clients a lot when they're like, oh, I've done this and that's happened, or why is it this kicking off at this time? And it's like, well, it takes time, this stuff. And also, we can't be too sensitive to every little thing that happens. One example being MCT oil. I remember the first time I took that a few years ago. Obviously, have a swig of it, put it in whatever drink I was having. I had horrendous stomach pain straight away. Now, I didn't know or fully understand what it did, but having learned about it and known what it does, MCT oil is great at breaking down the biofilm of bacteria. So those stomach issues you might be getting with it are actually what we want to be happening. So if you don't understand this, you might take the MCT oil thinking you're going to be better straight away and less stomach issue, less IBS, less whatever it is. Your stomach plays up and you start thinking, oh, well, I don't do well with MCT oil. It's not doing what I want it to do. So you get rid of it. Now that's one idea, but this applies to a lot of things. With ankylosing spondylitis, if we try and take things that we know are going to disrupt Klebsiella and ideally disrupt them quite a bit to the point where we can really reduce and kill off a lot of Klebsiella, there's going to be a hell of a lot of die-off symptoms that might mean you get worse before you get better. So in the antimicrobial phase, after you've done most of the gut repair, the symptoms can get worse. You can actually get worse than you were before, or at least have new symptoms or just tiredness. You might not be able to eat as much, feel a bit sick, lethargic, even just feeling a bit just like all over the place, disorientated. And with AS, you might have more joint pain. This might be because of the die-off, the Herxheimer die-off reactions that are happening when we kill bacteria. They don't just go and wave goodbye and say, thanks for having me. They die and they release a lot of the toxins and the LPS and the crap into the system that has been causing us issues anyway, but now they're doing it in abundance. So we've actually got more of the harmful toxins in our system during an antimicrobial phase and during taking things that are meant to kill the certain bacteria than we did before. So it's crucial to know that this is what's meant to be happening. So if you don't understand this, and this goes when you go to more the microcosm of it or the smaller things, maybe when people test foods, like I said, they think, oh, I ate this one food and I reacted to it, or I tried a little bit of starch and I reacted to it, or I sniffed a bit of baking powder accidentally that was over there that my wife was cooking with, and I'm floored for 6 weeks. I said it with foods, didn't I? For example, tomatoes or any other foods that people seem to react to, and they then say that that food's bad for them and they'll never be able to eat it ever again, even though 25, 30 years of their life they were fine eating it, and all of a sudden they're not. Like, there's a reason why, and the reason for that is because your gut can't handle it anymore, and because the bacterial balance is just so out of whack, and it's so fixed in place that a little bit of diet isn't going to fix it. And that's where a lot of people are. And then they use symptoms and they use reactions to certain foods as the set in stone, this is how I am and this is just the way it is. And bad reaction is bad, good reaction is good. And there is way more to it than that. And it's going to really harm your progress to actually stick to something for long enough, which is crucial when you've got this or got a health issue. You go 25, 30 years doing the same thing and you think you've started following a diet you picked, and you think within a few months it's just going to be sorted, great. The younger ones, that can happen, and that happened with me when I was 24. But the older ones, and even a little bit of progression, I'm talking late 20s, 30s, I don't know, find me a good example of someone who has done a month or so of dieting and they've got rid of all of their symptoms and it maintains. There aren't many. Another example is curcumin. So curcumin is one of the most antiviral compounds that exists, and there's many reasons to take curcumin, but because it is slightly antimicrobial, slightly antiviral, you could have some reactions to it. So take curcumin, I felt bad that flared up, curcumin's not good for me. And it's like, yeah, maybe it causes a symptom, but perhaps when you know where you want to get to and what the path there is, you then think, okay, this makes sense why this symptom has kicked off, but I'm hoping it's in the journey it's going in based on the literature of what these compounds do and how this affects the gut. It's the reactive state you have to get out of, and this is what I try to help people with. And it's hard. People do still get stuck into it. They want to talk about the reaction they had, and they want to talk about the time they did this and that happened, because it's tangible to see, and it's like a yes no column, as opposed to a this is a long process or a bigger thing we're tackling that isn't always going to feel good or feel bad. It's going to be a mix, but you've got to understand where you're getting to. So then the question comes, how do you know if you got better or the protocol's working? And obviously the end, after you've done everything, is there a reduction in symptoms then? Because we're not doing it all to have more symptoms by the end of it. No, we want less symptoms and to feel better and to actually enjoy life. But another way is bloods. You can get your bloods taken. Certain blood markers you can see quite clearly indicate gut health, levels of SIBO, intestinal permeability, and obviously you can do stool tests as well to kind of keep a track of, are you perhaps rebalancing the microbiome as you want to? So there's plenty of ways to measure it, and wait until the end of the protocol to check if it's worked or not. So the rubbish answer is it's long-term, this stuff. I love both. I love the short-term stories, and I love speaking about that because people need that short-term kick of like, yes, I did this and I feel great. It gives you that motivation, and I love that, and I'll back that all the time. But it doesn't last, and you need to have that long-term focus with it and be committed to it to see a difference. I've seen that in myself, and I see it in many other people. So I hope this kind of makes sense of what I'm saying. If you've got any questions, leave them in the comments below, and yeah, I'll see you in the next video.